I'm inside Fanuc's showroom in Coventry and I've come to explore robotics. I'm going to talk to Paul about this cell here behind me. Now, if you thought robotics were all about production, think again. So, Paul, automation plays a big part in a lot of machine shops' manufacturing processes these days. Fanuc are experts in this field. Can you tell us a little bit about the automation system that we've got here?
Yes, the robot will load raw parts from the raw parts tray into the machine, ready to be processed. And then once they've been processed by the machine, they will be unloaded with the robot and put in a finished parts tray. As you can see from this particular one behind us, it has a double gripper, which then allows it to pick a finished part and load a raw part at the same time. But if that wasn't possible, you could also have a single gripper to do both operations independently.
Okay, so this forms a cell. We've got a machining centre and then we've got a load and unload system. Is this, I mean, the load and the unload it's bespoke. You can build it up, you can have as many pallets as you want, you can change the size of the grippers. So depending on the application, depends on the spec of the robot arm. Yes,
it's completely bespoke. I mean, this particular robot is 10 kilograms. So obviously your maximum payload gripper with part weight is 10 kilograms, but that can range right up to a robot that lifts up 1,350 kilograms, which obviously wouldn't be loading a drill, but obviously you can have lots of different weights in between that as well.
And historically, I may have looked at this and thought this is a production tool, but increasingly engineers and machine shops that have got lots of different components are adopting this sort of technology as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have the same parts sort of minute in, minute out. You can have lots of different types of components.
Yes, you can have lots of different types of components in there. I mean, depending on how you engineer the system will depend on how it works. You could feed CAD data to the robot to offset the robot in a different way depending on the part that is being presented in front of it, which would make it more flexible than just a standard program running a standard part.
And the pick and place speed, how quickly can you pick a part up and put it into the machine?
Depending on the robot, it will obviously depend on the speed. We do a small robot, which is an Alarmate 200ID, which will run at about 4 meters a second. This robot, I think, is 3 meters a second, and then up to the bigger ones will be more like 2 meters a second.
So if I had 20 different components, each had a different program, could I walk away from the machine or the cell at night, go home and leave the machine and the cell running and come back in the morning to 20 finished components?
Yes.
And so it would the programming side of things would work in harmony, obviously, with the robotics.
Yes, it would indeed. The robots are made lights out in a factory in Japan.
Okay. And if I had a Fanuc robo drill, or if I had another machine tool, can I then just bolt this loading system onto an existing machine?
Yes, it can go onto. It doesn't have to go onto our Fanuc robot drill. It can go onto any existing machine tool. The beauty between these two, or if you've got a Fanuc control, is because the control interface is the same. It's a lot easier to get signals between the two for the interfacing. But at the same time, if you're using a different machine tool company, you could use other types of I/O field bus systems to communicate between the two, meaning you can use the robot with whatever machine tool you have.
Okay, and there is another factor in this. I suppose you could have an application that had got 3 or 4 operations on it, and you could do all of those operations by picking the part up, placing it back down, picking up another part with the second op, putting it into the machine, putting that down, picking up the third op. Therefore, you're eliminating risk of error on the job as well, I suppose.
Yes, yeah, it can do different ops if that's the case. If an op that has to do doesn't involve the machine, you could use the robot potentially to do that other ops, such as deburring. You could use force sensor options on the robot to deburr, or just use a standard deburrer with a little bit of compliance to deburr your part, which then eliminates another operator to carry out the check. If you want to do visual checking, you can add a camera to the system and do visual inspection of the part to make sure the surface is okay and things like that.
So summarise this Fanuc cell here, Paul.
This cell is going to increase productivity, increase quality, and decrease the amount of time that an operator will have to intervene with the machine and system.
And ultimately then giving you a quick payback.
Yes, definitely.